What's going on, Set Apart Guards family? What's going on? Whew, I know y'all can see me sweating. Man, it's raining outside. I just came from getting some mulch. Man, Facebook Marketplace, I'm telling y'all. So if you're a gardener, homesteader, whatever it is, and you want to grow your own food and all that type of stuff, and you don't want to always be buying bags of mulch or bags of dirt, first you can check with your city to see if, they offer free mulch, because sometimes depending on where you live, you might have a place where, they have a compost or they have mulch and they might drop you some for free. But another option is Facebook Marketplace. Sometimes people post, hey, we got this mulch, we got this, we got that, you can come get as much as you want. So that's what I just did. That's where I just came from. I just came from getting some free mulch, free black mulch. I would show y'all, but I don't want to get my phone wet. But all I did was, pulled up, shoveled it on the back of my pickup, and then, just left. So yeah, Facebook Marketplace is a cheat code. I keep saying that for everything, not just mulch, all that. You can get materials for a good price. Building materials, tools. Man, Facebook Marketplace is a very good resource. What's going on? Oh, what's going on, Castleberry Branch? What is going on? You say you're gonna like this live. Most definitely. Please hit that like button, man, as y'all coming in, and drop a comment in the chat. But yeah, so I was just telling everybody I just came from getting some free mulch. But as I was just thinking earlier, because I'm like, man, what do I want to talk about today on live? And something came in my spirit, and was like, embrace being the outlier, embrace being the outcast, embrace being the set apart one. You see what I'm saying? Like that's you looking for me? Okay. Yeah, but embrace that. Embrace it, because when you are like when you pivot from what you're used to, how you grew up, the environment, when you turn from that and when you start, living a different type of lifestyle, you stick out like a sore thumb, of course. When you start talking different, moving different, believing different, you see what I'm saying, from how you were raised and the people that's around you and your friend groups and all that type of stuff. When you start doing stuff, like for instance, I'll give y'all an example. My wife and I homeschool our children. Now, growing up, homeschool, I ain't know really what that was. Like, I mean, of course I knew, you go to school from home, but I'm saying like how it is now, I didn't really understand that. Because all we were taught was either public school or private school or charter school. But homeschooling wasn't really an option. And same thing with my wife, but we homeschool our children. But everybody else in our family, and our close circle of people that surround us, they send their kids to school. You see what I'm saying? And so when we start homeschooling and telling people like, yeah, they don't go to regular school, we homeschool them, they start looking at us like we was crazy. They was like, so what about the social skills? What about X, Y, and Z? You're not gonna be afraid that they're not gonna be sociable, and you're not gonna be worried about them learning and being behind on learning and stuff like that. And so people have all these type of questions because, again, you're sticking out like a sore thumb and you're being an outlier. You're going against the mold. You're going against the status quo, and people don't understand that. And so, when we first started off, of course, there was a lot of, criticism, kickback, whatever. But as we continue to do it, and as they see that our children are well, like they're well above the peers that, that go to school, their peers of their age groups that go to school, like they're more advanced than them. Like, for instance, we tried to send my son to school, to regular school, and it was maybe like a half a school year that we sent them there, just to kind of to test out the theory to see, okay, will he learn more? Will he be more sociable? Just kind of experiment type of thing. And we sent them to school, and all they did was sent back homework. I'm good with being separate and different. We homeschool too. I wouldn't have any other way we could teach our kids what we feel like they need to know. Exactly. Our extended family thinks we're nuts. Yes, exactly. And so we sent my son to school, right? And he, like all they did was sent homework home every day. He wasn't even being taught in the class. He wasn't even being taught in the classroom like that. And the stuff that they were sending home with him, the homework, he already knew. He already had been doing it. So he was more advanced. So we said, you know what, this don't make sense. Let's just pull him out of school. Because first off, it's a hassle. We got to take him, we got to drop him off, we got to pick him up, we got to wait hour, you know, an hour or two just to pick them up because the line is so long. And then with all these school unalivings, you know what I'm saying, that's going on. And don't get me wrong, the school that's here in our county where we live, it's a good school. They have armed security, like they have police officers that patrol like the schools. But I'm just saying, that's still a thought. Like all of this stuff is happening, so we might as well just stick to what we had already been doing, what was working for us. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But yeah, so people thought we were crazy for homeschooling our children until they started to see the results from it. And now they don't really, they don't, because this is the thing, right? And I'm gonna stick on this for a little while, the homeschooling thing. When it comes to homeschooling, because a lot of times people be worried about the kid's social life because you want your kid to be around other kids. But this is the thing, you can still homeschool and have your kids in social programs. You have sports, like my son plays soccer, my daughter plays soccer. You got sports, you got little, you got just other type of things where kids can interact, play groups and different things, and just even neighborhood kids. So it's like, and then, they got family, they got cousins, they got this, and they got all that. So it's like there are ways to socialize your kids without them having to go to a regular public school. That's what a lot of people don't understand. What TV show is better, Franklin or Little Bear? I would go with Franklin. You say for your son to watch. I'm sorry. I would go with Franklin because I liked it, Franklin. Big Shark, I don't know what that means, but if you trolling in my comments, get off my live, Big Shark. But so, like again, when it comes to the homeschooling thing, when people start seeing the results, guess what? Certain people start following along. Like they start saying, you know what? Let me take my kid out. Like I got a cousin who homeschools her kids. Poor, yeah. Go ahead, get out my own live. I wish I knew how to. Matter of fact, yeah. I'm gonna put you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna hide you from my channel. Big Shark. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, get off my live. But so, and let me know if I'm making sense, y'all. Talk to me. But embrace being the outlier. Because I'm gonna tell you something. Outliers and outcasts become trendsetters. Outliers and outcasts of society usually become the trendsetters because they stop going with the status quo and they go to, they make their own lane and they navigate. Hi from Barbara. What's going on, Barbara? And they navigate from the normals of society and they dare to embark on a different journey, you know what I'm saying, to get a different result. And when the fruits of their labor pays off, then they become trendsetters and people, yes, you're making good sense. Okay, appreciate it. And then people start to follow along after that. We wouldn't have innovations and different inventions if you didn't have people who are outliers in the past, who said, you know what? I believe that we can create a machine or a vehicle that can go faster than a horse and that can be more comfortable for people to ride in. And we can, you know what I'm saying? We can go from A to Z, in a good amount of time. So guess what? The car was invented. Or hey, somebody thought, okay, yeah, I know we used to using candles and lamps and stuff like that. But I feel like we can harvest some power and make something that can provide us light that doesn't require fire. So then the light bulb was invented. So it's like without people being outliers, without people being set apart, and people being outcasts, you wouldn't have a lot of these inventions that we have today. You see what I'm saying? We wouldn't have the social medias. We wouldn't have TVs and refrigerators and different things like that if everybody just, continued to go along to get along. So embrace being an outlier. Embrace going against normal because it's only normal because nobody has dared to challenge it and try to forge another way. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we have to embrace that because like Castleberry Branch just said about her homeschooling, a lot of families and different things like that, they'll think you're crazy, they'll think you're nuts. They're like, homeschool, that sounds like a lot of these extreme people who be in these cults and stuff, and that'd be like the first thing that people try to accuse you of is being in a cult. When you dare to be different. And don't get me wrong, you definitely have people who are in cults, who do become outliers, but it's because they're in a cult. I'm not discrediting that because you got a lot of that out there. However, just because it goes against what you're used to and the normal, the normal status quo doesn't mean it's automatically a cult. It doesn't mean that. It just may mean that, hey, somebody has a different vision for their life and their family, and they don't want to just continue to live how they've been living. They want to because what do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So you have people who want different results. So they understand, in order to get a different result, I got to do something different. And doing something different will require me to be an outlier, and it will make me stick out like a sore thumb. Like, I'm the first person, shalom, Danny. I'm like the first person, especially like from my generation, whether it be close friends, classmates, whatever, to say, you know what, I'm going to be a farmer. I'm going to be a homesteader. I'm going to go out and buy some land. Like, I come from, you know what I'm saying? Like, I come from a urban hood background. You don't see a lot of hood dudes saying, I'm gonna raise some chickens. You don't see a lot of, dudes saying, well, yeah, I'm gonna be out on the land. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have kids and just live, just out on the, you don't hear people saying that. So it's like, when I started doing that, people was like, you what? You a farmer? You know what I mean? And then at first, and I ain't even gonna say a lot of people downplayed it, but it was just like shocking and surprising. But as people start seeing, especially like the content that I was making and different things like that, they're like, man, you know what, bro? Like, you doing something like you doing something different. You doing something good. Like, you really living a lifestyle that a lot of people should be living. And so people started seeing the value in it. But guess what? I had to stick out like a sore thumb at first. I had to become a outlier, and I had to embrace that. I had to embrace that because, I'm used to dressing, Jordans and, streetwear, what they would call it, you know what I'm saying? Like dressing. But I traded all that in for overalls and boots and, cowboy hats and straw hats. I traded that in. Yes, anytime you make something uncomfortable by doing, anytime you make someone uncomfortable by doing something that goes against the norm, then you're a nut. Must be in the cult. We heard it out. I'm telling you. And like, people be thinking, oh, we need to have an intervention and it's like, first off, y'all the ones might be in the cult because y'all the ones who are afraid of breaking out of the mold of normalcy. Normalcy is actually really a cult, if you want to be honest. You see what I'm saying? And I'm saying normalcy in the sense of it don't got to be in the sense of just everyday things that are normal that we accept as a culture. But I'm just saying like normalcy where people's normal, like they're used to living in this same city or this same small town. They're used to doing the same thing every week, every Friday night or every Saturday. They're doing the same thing over and over again. They're hanging around the same people. They're not elevating. That's what I'm saying as far as the normalcy being a cult, because it's like you so locked into this and you're afraid that if you stop, then you're just afraid to elevate from that. And you feel like you're gonna somehow, not thrive or succeed if you break away from just the everyday rigmarole that you're used to. And that's really the cult, because your fear is keeping you there. Your fear is keeping you normal. Or they think, Chrome say, let them cook. I appreciate it. Or they think it's a phase and you'll get over it. Exactly. And that's another thing too. Oh, they just going through a phase. Oh, they just going through this, that. It's like, no, this is a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. Farming with D, all praise to the Most High. Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. But yeah, no, like Chrome say, let them cook. I'm laughing at that, man. But no, for real, like them being afraid to leave that normalcy and that routine that they're so used to, that town that they've been living in all their life, they never move. The fear is keeping them there. What's going on, Farming with D? Their fear is keeping them there. So you tell me what's more of a cult? Your fear keeping you in a sense of normalcy and stagnation, or my daringness to say, you know what, I'm gonna jump up out the nest and I believe I can fly because I got wings. You ain't never used your wings. You ain't even never used your wings. So how you gonna tell me mine won't work when we got them? You just never was bold. You were never bold enough to jump up out the tree and jump up out the nest and test to see if your wings work. You just automatically assume like, you know what, I ain't even gonna do it. I saw another bird. They, you know what I'm saying? They tried to fly and they fell and they bumped their head and this, that, and the third. Or I saw this person, they moved to Atlanta and because that's the thing, especially in my city where I'm from, in Jacksonville, like people feel like they moving to Atlanta go get them a better life. You feel what I'm saying? Like moving to Atlanta, moving somewhere like that, go get them a better life. Or Orlando, that's another place they'll move to. But you know, people like, oh yeah, they moved to Atlanta and then it didn't work for them. They had to come back home. But guess what? At least they left. At least they had the balls to leave. At least they had the guts to say, you know what? I'm gonna take this step and I'm gonna move a whole nother state over and see if I can forge a better way for myself. And if it didn't work for them, guess what? They still can say, hey, I tried. And they won't have that regret of what if. If y'all coming in, please hit that like button. White man from town, Jaguars. I'm telling you, go Jags. Go Jazz. Yeah, but you got to have faith forming with these. Exactly. But, you know, people, when you start embracing different things, like, for instance, you know, and I'm not going to really go into religion with this, but I'm going to just speak on, you know, like, for instance, me and my family, we keep the biblical feast days. So the Passover, Feast of Tabernacles tomorrow for us, you know, all that. We keep biblical holidays, right? And so, like, my family would see stuff like that, and they would think it's crazy. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And it's like, well, and this is my belief. This is my conviction to do this. You know what I'm saying? And people will think you're crazy. People will think you're crazy for doing something that, first off, is logical to do. And this is not just biblical stuff, but you can apply this to everything. When you do stuff, it may seem crazy to people, even though it's logical, even though there's nothing wrong. Like starting a business, you got people who are so dependent on a job and a career that when you dare to say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur or I'm going to start a business or I'm going to, you know, be an investor or go into real estate, just something that's not career driven or job driven, people will look at you crazy because then they're going to be thinking about, well, how are you going to get a paycheck? And it's like, well, I'm going to get checks, but it's not going to be like the paycheck that you're used to, that you're getting, you know, every bi-weekly, that you're getting every week, whatever, how you're used to being paid by the system that you're working for. It's not going to be that type of paycheck, but it is going to be a paycheck to where I'll get more money for doing, you know, a lesser amount of work, but more intentional work, whether it be investing, whether it be starting my own business, whatever. But I'm gonna reap more. And so although I won't get a check as frequently as you, maybe starting off, the checks that I get will be more than what you're getting, you know, in a year. I'll probably get in a month. So it's like, but people will look at you crazy because it's like, well, you know, they're used to seeing is a job, even though they have gifts. Like you got some people who work in a job right now that can cook better than anybody you know, but they afraid to start, you know, cooking for people and catering events or making plates or starting a food truck. They scared to do that because their fear is that they're going to lose the paycheck right here, not realizing you can go and get 1 million paychecks that pay more than that job. You see what I'm saying? And you're doing what you are good at and you're doing what you love. Yes, even if you fail, at least you try. Exactly. That's the thing. Like, sometimes you're going to fail. That's a part of life. Like, let's be honest. We all learn how to ride a bike. We done all fail on the bike. That's just what happens. But guess what? Would you rather fall off that bike and say, well, hey, you know, at least I'm learning how to ride? Or would you say, you know what? I just saw him fall off that bike, so I'm not even going to try to get on it. No, that's a part of it. So you falling, but guess what? You're learning from it. You're learning from when you fail. So if people, let's say, you know, they dare to move away from their hometown in search of a better life, and they end up back there 2 years later, 5 years later, they're not failures. They just might have bumped their head and failed at that specific thing. But what's most important is that they tried and that they did their best. They gave it their best, and they just didn't, you know, it didn't work out. And that's okay. Sometimes things don't work out. What calendar y'all using so I can get back on track? You talking about as far as with the feast days? Because with the feast days, we don't necessarily use a calendar. We just go based off of the new moon. So I just watch out for the new moons, and that's how we do it. So we go based off of the moon cycle. Even though we have grace, I'm sure God appreciates keeping the law and holy days. Blessings upon you. Exactly. And you know, again, not to get too deep into religion, because I like to stay away from religion and politics on my channel. But I still will show my faith in, you know, who I serve. But when it comes to keeping feast days and different things like that, I don't tell people you have to do this in order to be saved. Like I say, I tell people this is my conviction. I'm doing this because I'm saved. You see what I'm saying? It's not the same thing. Some people tell you you got to do X, Y, and Z in order to be right with God and to be saved. No, I'm telling you I'm doing X, Y, and Z because that is my conviction. And that is the evidence of my faith and what I believe, if that makes sense. What's going on, Jimbo? Okay, Farmer Deal say, okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, we just go based off of the new moon. But yeah, so it's like, don't be afraid to be the outlier, to be the different person, to be the crazy one or the nut job, whatever they want to call you. Like don't be afraid to be that person, because I'm pretty sure, like people like Steve Jobs or people like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, they were telling their friends and the people around, watching from India. What's going on? Shout out to India. I love Indian food, chicken biryani, lamb biryani. I love all that, butter chicken. So shout out to India. But Mark Zuckerberg, Demi Hawk, that's me. What you mean that's you? You talking about in regards to what I'm saying? But you got the Bill Gates of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the people who are innovative and who created a lot of these things like the Googles, the Facebooks, all of that, the Instagrams. They were telling their friend group before this was even a thing, like Tom off MySpace. How many of y'all remember MySpace? How many of y'all remember MySpace? Remember having the top 5 and the top 10, all that type of stuff. Yeah, that just go to show my age. But like the people who, you know what I'm saying, created these things back in the days where it wasn't anything, where the Facebook was nothing. It was just an idea or a concept. And you had Mark Zuckerberg probably telling his peers like, hey, I'm going to create one of the biggest social media platforms in the world. Hey, I'm going to create, a database like Google, and you're going to be able to do X, Y, and Z on it. You're going to be able to house all your stuff. I'm going to create that. Or, hey, I'm going to create this phone to where you'll be able to look at the screen and see another person that you're calling. You can see them on the screen. People probably thought that was crazy. Like, what do you mean? You're going to be able to look at a screen and see somebody? You call somebody all the way across the world, and you'll be able to call them and see them on your screen? No, that's stupid. You're dumb. That's crazy. That's probably what these people were thinking and saying to these people, like, Steve done lost his mind. Steve off his rocker. Steve done lost his mind. Steve Jobs. He talking about something that come out the Jetsons. You see what I'm saying? But guess what? He kept believing. He kept embracing being the outlier, and eventually now we have iPhones with FaceTime. We wouldn't have iPhones with FaceTime if somebody was afraid to be the outlier. If Steve Jobs was afraid to be the outlier and say, you know what, that's crazy that I'm even thinking of that. Let me just focus on something more humble. Let me go get an IT job. Let me just focus on something more humble. Let me go get my PhD. Dude, you are not smart. Go out and work. Zorro, that's funny. How about you get off my live? I do. Just got fired 2 weeks ago with the whole family. I know God got me. I feel no anxiety or depression. Glory be to God. He'll provide. Pray for me. God bless. I would definitely pray for you, Leah. How you say your name? Leonel. But you got this, man. The Most High, He gonna provide for you. All you gotta do is believe. Like you said, anxiety and depression ain't gonna get you nowhere. Christ said, take no thought of tomorrow. Meaning take no thought of the future as far as what you're gonna eat, what you're gonna drink. You got enough stuff to worry about right now. Focus on what you can do right now. And guess what? Tomorrow, it'll worry about itself. And guess what? The Most High, He will provide for you. It's a reason why He did what He did. So don't even worry about it. That just may be your calling to go and start a business or do what you've been called to do. Respect Twitter. Yeah, most definitely. I'll pray for you too. Thank you, Casper Branch. Yeah, pray for him. Yeah, I'll be praying for you, brother. But don't worry, because worry won't add more. What Christ say? By worrying, you can't add a single strand of hair to your head. By worrying, you won't do nothing. Just pray, trust, and put in the work. But so, if Steve Jobs would have been saying, you know what, let me just, because all these guys and girls are laughing at me. You know what I mean? They saying I'm crazy. They saying, they need to Baker at me because I'm telling them my vision. Let me just put that to the side. Let me focus on something else so that I could be accepted. You see what I'm saying? But no, instead, he said, I'm going to be the outlier. I'm going to be the crazy one. But I know I can do it. I know I can, create this thing, invent this thing, innovate this thing. I know I can do it. Same thing with anybody else who's ever done anything significant in this world, whether it's inventions, whatever, businesses, they all became the outlier. Think about how many entrepreneurs we have now. Entrepreneurship wasn't cool like that. I mean, it was common, but I'm saying as far as how it's embraced now, It wasn't like that 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, it was more so a job, career type thing. You know what I'm saying? What people were more focused on. But now, and the same thing with content creation. Content creation 10, 15 years ago wasn't really a thing like that. First off, 10 years ago, I didn't even know you could make money off of YouTube. I didn't know you could make money off of these social platforms because that wasn't really a thought. But you got people that who embraced it, and they start, you know, posting the content and doing what, and now content creation is a big business. It's like a gold rush right now, and you have people, you know, embracing that. You feel what I'm saying? But you had to have a few people like the King Box and, you know, those type of people who you remember from like early Instagram Vine days and all of that. I want and will be doing what you're doing. It's a blessing to God, and it's outside the matrix. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you could do it, man. I'm telling you, but just start small. Thank you, family. Yeah, Kyle, you tripping, man. Hey, I'm finna block you, Kyle. I ain't even gonna say what you just said because I don't want to get reported on here. Hide user from channel. Yeah, I just be blocking folks, man. People come in my if you want to come on my page or my comments trolling, I'm gonna block you. People leave negative stuff on my thing, I just block them. That way you can't even see my page no more. How about that? That's what I do. I just block them, Castleberry. I just block them. Cause guess what? You wanna act crazy, guess what? You ain't gonna be able to see none of my content unless you make another page and take the time to go on my page again. Exactly. Oh yeah, I rebuke that. Yeah, that's just a troll. But yeah, so like it's like you have to embrace it. And you know, earlier on in the content creation thing, like you would see people making skits, and yes, it's funny, but you would have never thought like, okay, this will become like you can make real money off of this. You would have never guessed that. But guess what? They stayed consistent. They stayed doing it. And now, you know what I'm saying? They're established and they're making, you know what I'm saying, buku money. It's not really about the money, but I'm just saying like they made a lane for a lot of people because they were embracing being the outcasts and the outliers. Like, oh, you spending all your time on the internet. And it's like, yeah, one day it's going to pay off. And it has paid off. And now you got people who was probably making fun of them back then, making those skits, now making skits, copying these people because they want to be able to get the same result that these people got because they stayed the course. Your motherland. What you saying, my motherland? What you talking about? Don't be trolling now. I already said shout out to India. But yeah, so again, man, like outliers, outcasts become trailblazers. They become innovators. They become popular over time. Like one of the most successful rap groups out of the South, Outkast, with Andre 3000 and Hit Boy. When they started first dropping music, right? And look, you know, we're gonna go into a little hip hop real quick. When they started making music, especially being from the South, because you gotta think, when they started making music in the 90s, it was East Coast, West Coast. You had Tupac, Biggie, those were the big names. The South wasn't really, like, I mean, yeah, you had your Master P's and stuff, but the South wasn't really like on the map like that. And so Outkast, when they won at the Source Awards, Andre 3000 got up there and said, guess what? The South got something to say. And ever since then, the music game has been dominated by the South, whether it be Atlanta, whether it be Texas, whether it be Louisiana, whether it be Florida, it has been dominating in the South. You got people who come from the West Coast and the East Coast and the Midwest, they'll come to Atlanta to get a record deal now. But back then, Outkast, when they first came on, they were the outcasts. They were the outliers. The South, you know, they was, you know, people calling us Bamas and stuff in the South. You know, we were the outliers. But guess what? They just stayed the course and they kept embracing being the outcasts and being different and making a different style of music than what we was used to, a different style of hip hop. And guess what? It eventually took over and it eventually evolved into, you see what I'm saying? Bro, would you allow my family to come visit y'all, help out with your homestead? Where y'all live at? Shoot me an email at sapgardens1@gmail.com. That's sapgardens1, SAPGARDENS1@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Instead of me, I'm proud of. Oh yeah, you talking about something else. But at least you ain't trolling too hard, so I'm gonna let you stand. I'm I don't even know how to say your name. Virju. I don't even know how to say that. I ain't gonna try to. But again, the hip hop group named Outkast were literally an outcast until they were popular. And now they being inducted into all kind of Hall of Fames, and you know what I'm saying? People labeling Andre 3000 as one of the greatest lyricists to ever live, but they started off as outcasts. They started off as somebody who was an outlier, who stuck out like a sore thumb, who had a lazy tongue because we came from the South, who didn't talk like, you know, the grammar that people were used to hearing in hip hop. But they brought a different style that became to be embraced over time and became to be popularized. So I'm just saying all this to say, man, if you're different, especially from the people that you're around, your family, all of that, if you are different and you're an outlier, please lean into that. Don't back up off of it. Lean into it. We need to get our families together since we're in neighboring states. For sure. Again, hit me up, Castleberry Branch. I also I want to do a joint live with you one of these days. Probably me and my wife, we can do a joint live with you. So shoot me an email, sapgardens1@gmail.com. And y'all welcome to come visit us in our homestead in Alabama, fellow veteran here in the truth. Most definitely. Oh yeah, we would love to come to Alabama. Yeah, most definitely. Alabama ain't too far from us anyways. You know, we right here southeast Georgia, but you know, Alabama the next state over. Yeah, most definitely farming with D. Okay, Leonard says I'm in Florida. Okay, what part of Florida? I'm from Jacksonville. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a Florida boy, man. Yes, let me know. Okay, yeah, shoot me an email and we can get that together. Or drop me your email. It don't probably have to be in this chat. Oh, you in Alabama too? That's right. Okay, yeah, for sure. Most definitely, yeah. We definitely gotta, yes, we can link up. We can do that. We can make some content. Most definitely. So yeah, I would definitely love that. But and I'm pretty sure, you know, wife and kids would too. But again, if you are different, if you are an outlier, if you okay, I give y'all another example, right? Frederick Douglass. Oh, you talk about my hat. People always be talking about my hat, man. Somebody said yesterday, on my live that the hat is giving slave. I'm like, man, come on with that. But I give y'all another example, right? Anime. I remember, cause I graduated over 10 years ago. That's crazy. I graduated in 2013. So when I was in high school, you know, you had the Naruto kids and the anime kids and stuff like that. You could generally tell who they was by how they dressed and how they acted. But they were outliers and outcasts. And even if you liked it, anime, it wasn't really cool to express that, especially like among the more popular people. It wasn't cool to express that if you liked it, you know what I'm saying, anime. But again, those anime kids, they continued to be who they were. They embraced it, whatever, the Narutos, all that type of stuff. I never really been into it. All I know is Naruto. But they literally had no problem with being different. And now 10 years later, I got homeboys that's been telling me, oh yeah, I've been watching anime. I would have never knew. But they were afraid to be different and say, hey, yeah, I like Naruto back then. They was afraid to say that and embrace that. But now there's a whole culture surrounding anime, and especially in the black community, you have a lot of black people who are embracing anime that has always liked anime. You see what I'm saying? I just never really got into it, but to each his own. But I'm just saying, like, that just go to show you how if you are the outlier and the outcast and you different and you stick to it long enough, eventually people gonna come out the woodwork and say, yeah, I kind of like that too, or yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like a lot of times people be mad at you for being different because they like what you like behind closed doors, like whether it's the cartoons or whether it's the anime. They like that behind closed doors, but they have to put on a facade in front of people because they don't want to be an outlier. But